Hey everyone, thank you for joining us today. Today we'll be going over a part of Electrical Bid Manager, our estimating software, that differentiates it from other options that are out there. The takeoff modules that we have that are part of EBM, Electrical Bid Manager, uh, help you take off the how do I put it? The key electrical systems that you'll be taking off. And part of the takeoff modules are I can't talk right now. Are saved as it's not saved assemblies. What is it, Brian?
Saved assemblies.
Saved assemblies. That's what we're talking about today. So the saved assemblies allow you to create templates of assemblies and just speed the process and make sure that your assemblies are complete. You can edit them, you can create them, and Brian will take you down a path of learning how to do that properly. But first, I wanted to talk a little bit about how you can interact with us. So we have a chat module off to the right on YouTube Live. So ask your questions, make your comments, and you do have to log in, but we'll get to your questions as we go through this webinar. And I think that pretty much covers it. So let's jump right in, Brian.
Alrighty, thanks, Derek. As Derek said, this webinar is specifically on saved assemblies, and as Derek said, it's really one of the things that is really unique about Electrical Bid Manager (EBM) in comparison to the other estimating programs that are out there. It's a really important time-saving shortcut. So we're going to go a little deep dive into the saved assemblies, what they're all about, and how to use them, and how to make the best, uh, how to benefit from them. So one of the things that is a little hard to explain is the difference between a database assembly and a saved assembly. I think most people are pretty familiar with the database assembly concept. It's probably used in every estimating program for every trade out there. And just a quick example from EBM. If I go to an assembly here and I go to a switch assembly and I bring up the assembly, it's got a whole list of parts in it. It's got a box, a switch, a plate, uh, all the way down to the screws and the wire nuts that go with it. So that's a database assembly. It exists in the database. It can be changed. It can be modified. Um, but that's what we call a database assembly. A saved assembly is really a different concept. A saved assembly is really a screenshot of one from one of the takeoff modules. So whether you're in fixtures, whether you're in feeders, whether you're in branch circuits, custom assemblies, we have a saved assembly feature that lets you capture what's on the screen, or even when you start the system, there's a bunch of saved assemblies to begin with. So we're going to talk about those saved assemblies and how they're utilized throughout the program. They are specific to each module. Like I said, fixtures has its own saved assembly list. Feeders has its own, branch circuits, cable takeoff, all the different, most of the different takeoff modules have their own list of saved assemblies, and they are entirely customizable. Again, keep in mind the system initially comes with a pretty comprehensive list of saved assemblies. And one of the things we'll cover here today is just a little bit of explanation on how you could add to the list and how you can change what's on the list. So we're going to cover that in a couple different places in the program. So again, they allow you to capture what's on a particular takeoff screen and use that template to take off what's on the screen and take off the assembly that you've got on the screen. And then you can also build your own assemblies, build your own templates. So let's talk specifics. Fixtures is one of the places that you've got saved assemblies, and it's real helpful. I'm going to toggle back into EBM for a minute. And I've got a job open here. So I'm going to go into light fixtures. So for saved assemblies here, you still give the fixture a designation like A or A1 or F1. And then up at the top here, you go to saved assemblies. So instead of going to description and trying to find the fixture, you go to saved assemblies here. I'll scroll up a little bit. This is a pretty typical one, a 2x4 LED lay-in. And it brings up the fixture without you having to locate it in the system. And it's got some accessories, in this case, just one accessory, some seismic wires, ceiling wires tied to the fixture. Now you can still add additional things to the fixture. You can put in a fixture whip and just go about creating the assembly for this particular takeoff. And again, the other thing we can do here, I'm going to do a different assembly. I'm going to do an X fixture. I'm going to go to saved assemblies. So there's an exit fixture here for a T-bar ceiling. Again, this saved assembly gives you the fixture. It gives you an assembly for a box and a plaster ring and a T-bar bracket. Now we've also got a little subset of saved assemblies here. This assembly just fills in all the stuff that was tied to that particular fixture. You've also got a list of saved assemblies just under the accessories. So if I want a fixture whip with a box and a bracket, that saved assembly brings in those accessories. Again, you can add to these lists and we can change what's on them. Let's do a quick example of that. Um, going to start over here. We're going to do an X1. Now the fixture designation is not tied to the saved assembly, but if I go to description, go to exits, go to an exit fixture. Under accessories, I'm going to put in an outlet box. So I'm doing this the manual way. And now I'm going to add a fixture whip. So if this is the assembly I want to capture, I can do one of two things. I can add it to my saved assembly list. That would be save screen. It would just take a snapshot of what's on the screen. Or I can update the one that's already here. It's your call. If you hit save screen, you give it a name, and you can get a specific as you want to here. Now that's going to stay in the program down here. We want to move it up later, we can, and that'll stay in the program. So there's really two types of saved assemblies on this screen. Some of the screens only have one saved assembly button at the top. Some of them have a little sub list here for things that might go with that fixture. Okay, so there's a little bit of a example of using saved assemblies and fixtures. Now, if you stop and think about it, the whole concept of saved assemblies is to recognize the fact that you do a lot of repetitive things in each takeoff module. So the next one we're going to look at is branch circuits. Now, when you open up branch circuits, it already says half-inch EMT with 3 number 12 wires. I'm just going to make an entry here. So let's say now I want to do 1-inch conduit instead of half-inch, and I want a pull string instead of a wire. And I'm going to change the support just to a 2-hole strap or something different. And now if I want to capture that, I'm going to put some elbows in here. So if I want to capture everything on this that's on the screen here, again, you just hit saved assemblies, hit save screen. Now you could put it in a folder, but we don't need to get into that much detail for what we're doing here. Save screen, again, is like doing a screenshot and you give it a name. And then it adds it to the list. Now when you do that, it's going to stay in the system. It'll be there if I come back later in this job. It'll be there if I go back to it in an old job, a new job. That's going to stay in the system. Now, that being said, again, you can edit those assemblies. You can delete them. You can add more. You can even create your own categories and subcategories. So the next time I need that assembly, let's just do something a little different here so you can see how I can get back to that. I'm going to do 1-inch DRC with 3 number 6s. And a number 10. I'm going to get rid of the pull line. I'm going to put in 120 feet, a couple of elbows. So now if I want to utilize that 1-inch EMT with a pull line again, I don't have to change all the little drop downs. I just go back to my list of favorites, if you will, saved assemblies, double click on it, and there we go. There we go. So it's just a way of capturing what's on the screen. You make the call, what should be on that list. You can organize it, reorganize it, make it add more to them, delete them. But keep in mind, the program comes with a lot of saved assemblies. I think there's in this particular part of the program, there's at least 30 or 40, maybe 50 to 100 different saved assemblies already here, already ready to go. So it's up to you to supplement it where you think it's appropriate. The other place we use it is in custom assemblies. Let me just switch to that for a second here. So this is an oddball fixture or a switch assembly that you might run across. We've got 5 switches. 3 of them are Lutron Diva dimmers. One of them just a regular switch, and there's also a fan control. So not an assembly you're going to find in the normal database. So normally, if you go down to fixtures and go to device assemblies, and we go down here under the 5-gang assemblies, there's a few options here, but none of them are even close to that. Sorry about that for the assembly we're looking at here. So what we do is we go to custom assemblies, and we can build it from scratch, of course, but the better way to do it is to go to saved assemblies. Now I could go to a 5-gang switch outlet, but there's actually a better choice here. There's one for commercial Decora, so that's going to put some Decora switches. I apologize. I'm not sure what the dog's barking about, if you can hear that.
Yeah, that's not too bad.
So I'm going to pick the 5-gang. So what that fills in is 5 Decora switches up at the top. We're going to change that, obviously. We're going to leave the Decora plate, the 5-gang box, the 5-gang plaster ring, the bracket, and some wire nuts and screws and pigtails. So there was 1 Decora switch in that assembly. On the next line down, we're going to hit device, and we're going to go to switches, not switches, we want dimmers, sorry. Incandescent LED, and there's a single pole 600 watt Lutron Diva dimmer right there. And we've got 3 of those. And the third item was a fan control. So we'll put one of those in, and you've got a brand new assembly. And there we go. Now, let me take this one step further. Again, there's kind of a sub-assembly list here. Remember the assemblies you saw in the branch circuit? If I want to include some wiring with this assembly, I can go to this little tab. This is wire and conduit and cable. I could do conduit, or I could do cable with this assembly. We're going to do conduit. That's the same list you saw just a minute ago. So I'm going to go to EMT. I'm going to go to 3/4 with 5 number 12s, and I'm going to put in 20 feet of that for this assembly. Down here at the bottom, you hit the quantity. Let's say there's just one of those, and hit takeoff. That's a really quick way to create an oddball assembly on the fly. Now, again, it's your choice. You could save that, but that's such an oddball one, I wouldn't bother. But by starting with the saved assembly, you get a running start. You've got the main parts you need, whether you go to one of these folders or whether you go to a 3-gang. It gives you most of the basic parts, and then you just switch it out. So again, it's kind of your responsibility to start thinking about looking for things that are repetitive. But I know over all the years I've done with estimating training, there's a lot of things that are repetitive, and we've really tried to take advantage of that in all these different takeoff modules. Like Derek said at the beginning, the takeoff modules are designed for the parts of the takeoff, like branch circuits or feeders, and they give you the appropriate prompts for taking off that part of the electrical system. But we take it a step further now by having saved assemblies that capture the things you use in there on a repetitive basis. It's really the kind of a nice little marriage of flexibility and shortcuts. So that's about all I have, Derek. Have we got any questions or?
I don't think so. We might in a minute, but so while we wait to see if anybody has any questions, just wanted to mention if you're new here, to be sure to subscribe to our channel. We're putting up at least one new video a month and trying to get to the point where we're doing 2 or more. Usually there's some kind of educational video. Today we wanted to educate a little bit more about a functionality of our software that really does differentiate it and makes it easy to use. And Brian, who is also our trainer, and if you were to get training with us, Brian would be your guy, has noticed that when he's training customers, even customers that have had our software for a while, sometimes aren't that familiar with the saved assemblies functionality. So we thought, you know what, let's cover that today. That's one of the benefits of Brian doing these videos and the training, is he gets to see what our users like and what they maybe some of them underuse and should really take a better look at.
And as far as training, there's a lot of options. We do a lot of one-on-one online training. You can do anywhere from an hour and a half or 2 hour session or more or longer. We also have virtual classroom training. We've got an introductory class and an advanced class. In those classes, you actually log into a website where you use our software on a platform that lets you run EBM and Epic and any of the programs on the virtual website. Those are uh, multiple students in the class. So
Mhm.
as an instructor, I have a screen where I can see multiple screens and we go through a course. We also do specific training on any of the programs. Again, we can train you on just on EBM. We can train you on how to customize EBM, just about anything you want. And we also do on-site and in-person classes. We've got some in-person classes coming up the first week of August. That'll be in Dallas, Thursday and Friday of the first week of August. Um, we also do on-site training where I come to your office, and typically those are a couple of days at a time, but we can train as many people as you need to. That the advantage of the on-site training, especially if you have uh, two or three or more users, is we can train everybody at once, and we can customize it to whatever your company needs.
Yeah. All right, we do have a question.
How do I get my created assemblies to appear in the predetermined list of saved assemblies? I'm not sure exactly what that question is, but let's go back and look at the screen where it happens.
Yeah, because there's the
Okay,
two sets like you covered, the main database assemblies
so
and the go ahead.
yep, so the saved assemblies we're talking about today are simply a screen capture of what's on the screen. Again, you can select one that's on the list here, 3/4 inch with 7 number 12s, or if you want to add one to that list, let's just let's say I want 1 1/4 with a pull line. So whenever you're to the point where you want to capture what's on the screen, you go to saved assemblies and you hit save screen and you just give it a name. And there it is. Now that's going to stay in the program. I'm not sure that's what the question was about, but I think that's what they're trying to ask is how
I
do I
think
get.
so.
Okay.
I mean, this is it gets added to the predetermined list of saved assemblies that are options.
I like the analogy of a screenshot because that's really what it's doing. It's capturing what's on the screen and then giving it a name. So it takes it a step further, but it's just like doing a screenshot on your phone or your computer, and then you give it a name. So the next time you need it, you just go to that list and pull it up, and it's ready to go.
Yeah, so the follow up was the only way to add to that list is to capture the screen.
Yep, that's correct. That's the
Can
whole
you
idea of it.
can you bring saved assemblies back up? Yeah, and then
Again, you can create folders and put things in folders rather than just on a big long list here.
you can add subheadings or headings too to break them up.
Yep, and then you can even put subcategories into the categories. You can get pretty involved here. Now, the idea though is to make it as quick as possible, so you don't want to get too much stuff in here. Make it too complicated to find things, but that's
But the categories or folders would
right.
help speed you a bit. You can add a couple folders and
Sure.
put 4 or 5 or 6 or more, as many as you want, really.
Yep.
I feel like you could probably have 20 plus in a folder easily, especially as you get used to it. If you want slightly different variations,
Hmm.
sometimes just creating a basic template or saved assembly, um, not basic, but like a what would you call it, like a core
Yeah.
template to start with, and then you can make one small change on the takeoff module pretty quick.
Right. Like
That
a good
might be
example
easier
here.
for
Maybe I
some,
wanted to change the type of support after I pull up the saved assemblies. I can change it to something else, and I'm ready to go. But
right?
I didn't have to go through all the different drop downs. I just pulled up the saved assemblies and found something that was close enough to start with. This is a good one for doing HVAC, 1 inch EMT with 3 6s and a 10. That would be good for like a 60 amp disconnect. But if you need to tweak it, you can change the support. You can change the elbows. Maybe instead of field bends, you want factory elbows. That's the whole idea of the saved assemblies, is to
Mhm.
get a quick and easy starting point, and then if it's not exactly right, use one of the drop down menus to tweak it.
You probably mentioned this, but the save assemblies is, what do you call it? It only displays the saved assemblies for that takeoff module. So
Correct. It's unique to each module. So the saved assemblies and branch circuits is different than the saved assemblies and fixtures.
which is a different takeoff module,
Right.
right? Yeah, I think just not every takeoff module has saved assemblies, but I think almost every.
Most of them do, yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Okay. Well, thanks for those questions. Hopefully, I think we clarified what you were asking there. Um, I don't think we need to get back into creating an assembly in the master database. That's another
That really is. That's a
webinar.
whole different concept. Yeah.
Right. So let's stay focused. All right. Well, hey, thank you everyone for joining us. I don't think there were many questions. I think that what Brian presented was pretty straightforward overall. Um, I can't think of anything else to add to that either. Good job, Brian.
All righty.
Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next month. Have a good 4th.
Thanks, everybody. Bye now.